And now, aviation weather around Alaska. Hi, I'm National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Chan, and let's take a look now at your Alaska aviation weather coming up here for Monday and Tuesday, early in the week ahead. To start things off, we are going to have an area of low pressure, kind of a couple of them combine into a low over the northern Gulf. Not especially strong, but it will bring IFR conditions along areas of the Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, all the way back in through the Chugach Mountains and on, especially in through southern Panhandle. We have an area of IFR conditions across the interior. Big area of high pressure sits up in the Arctic Ocean. That's going to bring brisk east-northeasterly flow here across the Arctic coast, causing blowing snow as well as a lot of heavy freezing spray where there is some open water. Meanwhile, low pressure that's out over the central Bering is going to work its way southeastward. There's going to be another low riding along the Aleutian chain, and eventually these two systems will emerge into one low south of the Alaska Peninsula that'll eventually lift up into the western Gulf around midweek. So that'll become the next major weather player here beyond this time frame that we're looking at in this particular video. But for Monday afternoon, widespread IFR conditions, intercoastal mountains, the northern half, the Panhandle, all along the northeastern northern Gulf Coast across Prince William Sound on up even into the Talkeetna Mountains. Further north and west, IFR along the northwest Arctic coast, and then areas of the southwest, including Kuskokwim and Bristol Bay, large area of IFR with that area of low pressure heading off toward the east-southeast, and then another low that's working its way from the western into the central Aleutians will bring widespread IFR conditions. By Tuesday morning, still some IFR conditions are expected along the inner channels and up against the Canadian side here. That would be Tuesday morning. We expect IFR conditions along areas of the 40-mile Gold Country, Upper Tanana Valley, down through the Copper River Basin, Wrangell, St. Elias, still including areas of Prince William Sound around Valdez, Cordova. We also see a little IFR maybe up toward Arctic Village and along the Alcan border, and then out toward the west along the northwest coast, Wainwright down through Point Lay, and then along areas of the southwest coast, lingering IFR conditions, especially centered on Kuskokwim Bay, Nunavik Island, and then another area extending in here through the eastern Aleutians. And then by Tuesday afternoon, we're going to start to see that energy reemerge here in the northern Gulf and then begin to head northeastward. And as a result, we're expecting IFR conditions to expand across the Gulf and especially off to the south there of Kodiak Island. Still an area of IFR across the central eastern interior north of the Alaska Range along the Yukon River, and then also an area of IFR remains in the southeastern Bering. And pass conditions for Monday, Anaktuvik Pass should generally see MVFR conditions, as will Adigan Pass up in that portion of the Brooks Range. Further south and west, Lake Clark and Merrill starting out with VFR early Monday, becoming MVFR there at Lake Clark, and eventually that moisture will be spreading northeastward as we go into Monday night and Tuesday, lowering ceilings and bringing in potentially some more areas of precipitation. Rainy Pass looking for VFR generally throughout the day Monday. Windy Pass, MVFR, there could be a brief interval of VFR, but right now MVFR looks to be the rule. Isabel Pass, VFR early Monday, giving way to MVFR conditions, and then Mentasta Pass, VFR conditions should hold throughout the day on Monday. Tanita Pass generally stuck there in much of the Copper River Basin, IFR conditions. Portage Pass also IFR conditions will prevail on Monday. And further east there in the northern part of the Panhandle, Chilkoot and White will see IFR conditions hold on Monday. Freezing levels. The surface freezing line runs across the northern Bering through Toland Strait and then down along Bristol Bay and then back up along areas of the Shelikof Strait and along the Kenai Peninsula, and then right just inland of the northeastern Gulf Coast. Freezing levels aloft are 2,000 to 4,000 feet across the Panhandle, and we also see them bump up above 4,000 and 6,000 feet well south of the eastern Aleutians and the tip of the Alaska Peninsula. The greatest threat for some icing will remain across areas of the interior, middle upper Yukon Valley above 2,000 feet. Also areas of the north slope to the northwest Arctic coast above 2,000 feet. And then we have some areas of isolated moderate icing possible, still lingering along areas of the northeastern Gulf Panhandle, and then back here toward the southwest coast and into parts of the southwest interior. And then an area mainly near and south of the central Aleutians above 8,000 feet. So looking at the jet stream pattern, the upper level winds situated at 30,000 feet. Most notably, we have a strong jet core along and south of the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula in excess of 100 knots. But more importantly, as we go behind me here, there's a strong jet core, 170 knot northwesterly wind max that's diving southeastward. That's what's going to help carve out the next weather system that lifts out along this area here as we go into midweek. And that jet will eventually make the turn around the trough. And you'll see that effect as we go through the next couple of days. Broad area of winds at 9,000 feet or 700 millibars, generally in the 40 to as high as 60 knot range, especially just south of the Gulf of Alaska, then the North Pacific, extending along, and just south of the central and western Aleutians, we have an 80 knot wind max. And then at 3,000 feet, here's the one low circulation coming in off the central Bering, working its way east-southeastward, 50 knot winds along and ahead of that trough. And then the secondary stronger low, this is the main piece of energy, has winds of 50 to 60 knots around the western central Aleutians. And as we bring down to the surface, we expect turbulence to be prevalent along the Aleutian chain on Monday. There could even be some areas of isolated severe turbulence here and through the western half of the Aleutian, surface to 3,000 feet. That extends all the way out into the Alaska Peninsula, surface to 4,000 feet, including St. Paul, and some areas near and just southwest of Kodiak Island, surface to 6,000 feet. We could expect to find some moderate turbulence. Also an area along the Arctic coast. It remains blustery there with blowing snow and heavy freezing spray in any areas of open water due to a very strong high pressure sitting up there, way up in the Arctic Ocean. But we do expect some areas of moderate turbulence along the Arctic coast on Monday from the surface to 3,000 feet.